Hi, this is Andrew Barta, the founder of Tech 21, and you're watching for BassPlayersOnly.com.
Hi everyone, John Liebman here. You're watching for BassPlayersOnly.com. We're coming to you today from the Tech 21 booth at the 2019 Winter NAMM Show, Anaheim, California, with the founder himself of Tech 21, Andrew Barta. Hello, Andrew.
Hi, I know it's 30 years.
Congratulations.
I know I don't look like 30, but it is 30 for the company. Yeah, thank you.
30 years of Tech 21. We have interviewed a lot of your artists like Rex Brown and Geddy Lee and Dave Bizzigatti and Tom Peterson and Doug Pinnick and on and on. So many people love your products, which is no surprise because you make some great stuff. Well, let's work up to that. I want to talk a little bit about you first. You are originally from Hungary,
Yes.
and you're a musician. You play guitar and bass. So tell us about, first of all, your musical upbringing, how you were first exposed to music, and how you became. Are you more of a bass player or more of a guitar player?
Well, actually, I wanted to play the bass from the beginning because I love the deep sound of the bass. And my father told me that he doesn't want me to play bass because he listened to classical music a lot and he felt that bass is always in the background. So he said, I'll buy you a guitar. Okay, so I was like, okay, it's close enough. So he bought a guitar. I actually restrung the guitar with bass strings, because I just wanted to hear that deep sound, But then I studied guitar, I had a teacher, and but the bass was always there somewhere in the background. And after I came to America, I was working in a music store as a repair tech, and one guy who was doing the brass repairs, he was a drummer in a country band, and they needed a bass player. So I was like, because it was a steady gig, they were actually paying you money every night.
This is where, New York, New Jersey?
Actually in New Jersey, a New Jersey country club in a kind of middle of New Jersey. And so I took that gig. And I bought a PV bass because it was very cheap and it was nice bass. And, learned the songs really quickly. It wasn't too difficult. And started to play bass. So that's how that started.
What prompted you to start Tech 21?
Well, frustration that there were no products that what I needed. Many times we were recording. Now this is not the country band. I also played in rock bands and even more like hard rock bands. And we were recording, and many times we rented 4 hours in the studio, like in Manhattan. So we bring in the big Marshalls, set things up, mic it, moving the mics, trying to get a good sound. And by the time we got a good sound, the 4 hours was up. Or you had 10 minutes to play. And I was like, this is so frustrating. I need to get something that I can bring into the studio, get a great sound immediately, and start to cut tracks. So that's how the original SansAmp was born.
Tell the people what the SansAmp is. That means without an amp, right?
Exactly.
So what is it? What is a SansAmp?
That's what it is. It's basically a box. Now you have it all over the place. When you walk around the show, they have a lot of digital version of that because it's much easier to accomplish it digitally. There's the Campers, there's the Fractals, and all these smaller companies now doing the same thing. But we're talking about mid-'80s, okay? There was no digital technology could do this, so I set out to do this in analog. And as far as I know, we were the first company who did this in the analog domain to emulate an amplifier from the beginning of the input. So you plug your guitar in to all the signal chain with the preamp, power amp, speaker, microphone, go into the mixing board, and even the EQ on the mixing board sometimes was represented on the product. So you get the full signal chain in the analog domain, and you could record directly. So that's what I needed at the time. And then we actually heard about that Michael Anthony from Van Halen was using it on bass. And I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, he has a point, we could do a bass-related SansAmp also. So then we came out with the bass driver. First, the controls were on the inside because I didn't want the soundman to screw it up. Because see, soundmen, they love to do this. They give you a DI, for a bass player, and then, oh, I'll mix your sound. I'll give you a good sound. Never sounds good. Because the amp gives you that nice, deep sound, the final sound. And when you go direct with like a neutral DI, it's always very clinical. It doesn't have any drive to it, the body. So I put all the controls on the inside, so when the soundman plugs in to the DI, he already has like a preset sound that he cannot change, right? But then later on, a lot of bass players ask, like, I really need to tweak it, I don't want to take it apart to tweak. So then we put the controls on the outside. This was like over 20 years ago, and since when we sold so many of these DIs, because there was nothing like that on the market. Now, again, there's a lot of companies who are making products like that, but we were the first one with the bass driver DI.
So the SansAmp is kind of your flagship product with Tech 21, but you have a lot of other good stuff too. You have amplifiers and other things. Tell us about some of the other products that you produce at Tech 21.
Well, music is my love, so I always was my dream to build an amplifier. So we did, and then one day I get a phone call. They said, line 3, Les Paul, and I was like, you're joking, right? Like, it can't be. So I pick it up, it is Les Paul. And it turns out that his bass player using our products, and Les was very frustrated with his amp because he was using a tube amp at a time, constantly breaking down or crackling or some kind of issue because it was an old tube amp.
Was it Nicky Parat by any chance?
No, that was before Nicky. It was Novinsky, Paul Novinsky. Okay? But here's the funny story now that you mentioned Nicky. Well, Paul had to go on a road with some other acts, so Nicky got hired by Les Paul. She's a beautiful Australian blonde lady, and she comes to my shop. She says, Les told me that I have to buy one of your sandbox, otherwise I can't play in the band. So we set her up, and then she started to use it, but Les was insisting that any bass player he works with has to use our product because it gave this gentle compression to the bass, even a stand-up bass, that it made it really fit well in the mix. And his soundman, Tommy, is also very famous. I forgot his last name. He's a guitar luthier, and he does everything. And he was mixing an unbelievably clean and good sound, but this product made the bass really just fit in. So he was not doing that DI thing I told you that is just too clean, too sterile. This DI that we built was giving him that sound that is just really fit with the band.
So you were telling me about
Tommy Doyle, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were telling me about some of the other products that you have at Tech.
So that was the amp. So then we gave an amp, the trademark 60 to Les, which he used for the rest of his life for about a 10-year span. And even at the Carnegie Hall, which actually we have a picture of that when he played at Carnegie, he had the trademark 60 behind him, and it was such an honor to have such a legend using my product. And we used to have this brainstorming. I used to come to see him at the Iridium, and Andrew, sit down, tell me about why do you have this and that, He's asking me these things in the amps, and it's like, how do you know this, Les? He says, oh, I put my signal generator on it, and we were watching it on the scope. He was an amazing guy. In his 90s, he was still like looking at, oscilloscopes, like, and try to measure things, and improving things and picking my brain, like why did it this, that. So he's a huge inspiration. Of course, he was playing every Monday night, and his arm was broken in a car accident, and they set it in a way that he can still play guitar. So he had such a strong spirit, and I think that's what made him live that long, is that he just kept going and going and going with the music.
What about the future for you and for Tech 21? What else can you talk about that you're working on or planning, or what can we expect to see?
A lot of things are secret because unfortunately we find that there's a lot of competition now, especially from China, that they just copy products, and many times on the outside they're similar, but the inside they don't put the same hardware in there, the quality. But if we give it away too quickly, then the copies come too quickly. So I usually hold that back. And the other thing is we try to stay flexible. So when we see there's a need for a new product, we try to go to that direction. But for example, with Geddy Lee, his tech called us and said, like, we were thinking about doing something together because Geddy been using our product for over 20 years. And his tech had some ideas because they had a whole rack full of gear. Some of it is ours, but some of it is not. They said, can we distill all this down to a single rack unit? Because Geddy's going to do some other projects now, and it would be much easier to travel with. And we were like, of course, whatever you want, let us know. So we developed the 2112 rack mount preamp. And now this show, we are actually distilled it even further down. It's a pedal called the YYZ pedal that gives Geddy's sound. You can go direct with it or through an amp, but in a pedal format. So it's almost like an espresso that you start with the long coffee, like everything's in it, and it's like keep squeezing, the flavors and the juices down to something really strong and powerful and small. Because let's face it, nowadays people don't want to carry a lot of stuff. They want to put their bass on their back and maybe throw a pedal in or some couple things, but they don't want to have too much stuff. And Geddy's sound is amazing. So if you can put that into a pedal, you have a winner there.
Yeah, we just ran an interview with him back in December.
You did?
He was talking about his new book, too, the Big Beautiful Book of Bass.
I saw that. Yes.
Yes. Well, let me ask you one more question. There's so much more we could talk about, so much more I could ask you, but we can't go on forever. I imagined that when you started the company, I don't know what you had in mind or where you thought you'd be 30 years later, and congratulations again on your success. But what do you think you would be if you weren't a bass player or a guitar player? Something outside of music, perhaps.
Outside of music? Well, here's the thing. Again, my father, he was a journalist, and a well-respected member of the community. He translated books from French to Hungarian. So, we had a lot of culture in the house. So when I told him I want to be a musician, he was petrified. And he told me the only way he's going to support that if I learn a trade that I can always fall back on. And I picked electronics. So it was actually a very lucky combination. So when I came to America, I played in a couple of bands, but it was very hard to support myself, fully just from music. And so then I went to a couple of music stores and I asked them if they need a technician, which luckily I found a couple of jobs. And I first worked in New Jersey at Red Bank Music. And then I moved to Manhattan. I worked at Alex Music. Same bench as DiMarzio. I was just talking to Larry yesterday about that. And I was so proud, on the same bench as Larry DiMarzio started himself. He did the same thing. He started out as a repair guy, do this and that. And he just grew his business from there. So I followed his footsteps, learned from the big guys, And so what I'm saying is that if I wouldn't be in a music business as a musician or even a repairman, I would be involved in electronics in some way.
Good. As you said, you've got a good combination of both of those.
And lucky, and very lucky combination. But that's why I picked electronics, because it's related to music very closely. And it was frustrating, like I used to have amps that blew up or something. I said, at least I'm gonna know how to fix it.
Congratulations again on the first 30 years of Tech 21, and much luck, continued success to you always, and we look forward to continuing to promote your brand and interview your artists, and you've got a good thing. Keep it going. Congratulations again. On location at the Tech 21 booth with Tech 21 founder Andrew Barta at the 2019 Winter NAMM Show, Anaheim, California. I'm John Liebman. You're watching for BassPlayersOnly.com.